going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing which ratings matter for receivers within college football 25. This is generally a pretty straightforward answer, and I'm sure a lot of you can guess pretty quickly what matters the most because it's the same thing that has mattered at the receiver position for the longest time within football games, especially within Madden and now within college football, and even back in the day within the NCAA football series. So jumping right into it, the by far most important rating for any receiver within college football 25 is going to be their speed. Speed absolutely destroys everything within this game, whether it is a slot receiver, a deep threat receiver, whatever you're trying to do with your receivers, their athleticism is absolutely king. The next most important thing besides their speed is going to be their acceleration, meaning how quickly they get up to that top speed. If you have a really good high-end speed, but you don't have a good acceleration, sometimes that can be an issue for you. Depending on what settings you guys play on Heisman, speed is going to matter even more for you because you need that extra separation in order to make things work a little bit more effectively. On All-American, speed is king, but you can get away with lower-rated speed players. You're going to see a bigger disparity whenever you get higher in the difficulties on this game, though. Just having speed on your offense allows you to open up the playbook to so many more options. Just about everything in every playbook in this game is going to work for you if you have more athletic, more speed players on your roster. Especially in the passing game, being able to throw things like slot fades and whatnot are highly dependent on receivers that are athletic enough to just simply gain separation, and not necessarily dependent on just their route running. So I want you guys to definitely be aware that that is absolutely king within this game, as it has been for years and years and years. You want the most athletic players possible, and that's a reason why people are going out and recruiting the best athlete players at the receiver position. That's why people are targeting deep threats. Sometimes route runners can be pretty solid in it. Sometimes physical receivers, if they're athletes, can have pretty solid speed. But even a player that's just a 94 speed or a 95 speed is going to be a massive difference from a player that's a 90 speed, and that shows in the production all the time. This is a really awesome receiver for me at 90 speed, really good catching, good route running capabilities, but he just simply does not get open at the same rate as the other two receivers around him, and so they have far more receiving opportunities and far more stats put up on the board because of that. And it's not that you can't use these players that don't have good speed, especially if they have other ratings that make up for it, but you definitely want speed within this game. As always, at the receiver position, 90 speed is kind of the minimum what you're looking for. You can get away with guys in the high 80s, but it's not ideal for sure. If you want high speed, you're looking for guys that have 94, 95 plus speed. When you really think about who they're going up against, most of the corners in this game are going to have low 90s speed, 90, 91, 92, 93. So if you can beat that with your receiver speed, you're going to be beating them on vertical balls, even if they're really solid players. If they're pressed up and you get a good release, you're going to be able to beat those guys on drags, anything going across the field, anything long developing. They'll be able to gain separation just because of their athleticism. But aside from simple speed, what else is going to matter for these players? Well, the next most important rating for me is going to be their route running categories, and I'm going to combine in their release as well as kind of an equally important rating. It really depends on what you're going to be doing with your receivers, but having a player that has really good release is going to make a difference. So my 87 overall receiver that is really solid in a lot of different areas. I use him for a lot of my medium routes. He has really solid hands. He's got less speed, he's got less release, and so he's just generally less effective and less open than other players. He takes longer to get off the ball and those types of things. You really want to focus on their route running capabilities and their release. You can get away with low catching players. I've had high-end speed players that have 70s catching be able to catch the ball consistently within this game. Now, updates have changed it from time to time, It seems like the very latest update as of making this video has dropped catching capability quite a bit within this game, so you might want to factor in their catching capability a little bit more. But even at that rate, you're looking at something in the low to mid 80s as pretty solid catching, and they're going to catch most of what you throw at them. So that's a lot of receivers in this game, especially if they've developed for a single year. They're going to have catching in the 80s. What can be harder to develop is consistent route running. As you guys can see, I have a guy that has 92, 86, and 89. It's not really balanced as far as what he can do. And then you have a guy that has 81, 90, 87. Again, not very balanced. Then you get some guys that are better at deep route running versus short route running. So it is harder to get balanced route running across the board with players. But what can really improve their capability of getting separation and the timing of pass plays is their release rating. And I think that this one goes a little bit overlooked at times, especially within college football 25, because it's maybe not necessarily understood as well as it could be, but your release rating is going to determine how quickly you are getting off the ball as a receiver and how quickly you're getting past a pressed cornerback, how quickly you're getting past the cornerback, how quickly you're getting basically into the start of your route. And it can really affect the timing of your routes, especially with how quickly the pass rush is in this game, how bad the pass blocking can be from the offensive line. You need receivers that can get off the ball, get into their routes, and gain separation quickly. And the most important things to affect that are your release off the ball, your athleticism, and your route running capability. If you've got those three things, you're going to be a really effective receiver. Obviously, certain players are going to be geared more towards one thing than another. This guy is more geared towards short route running, so I can use him on a lot of drags and those types of things, and he's going to be really effective with it. But I can still use a guy that's maybe not a burner, and he can gain separation on deeper routes down the field because of his route running technique. And so, like I said, then kind of the next tier below that to consider is going to be your catching statistics. And you're really going to be doing well if you have receivers that have catch in traffic, spec catch that are above an 80. Again, it depends a little bit on what you're doing with your receivers and how you're playing. If you're playing like ultimate team and those types of things, your spec catch, your catch in traffic might matter a little bit more because you're going to get a little bit more arcadey style gameplay. Whereas in sim style gameplay, dynasty modes and those types of things, your spec catch isn't going to come into play quite as much. You might be throwing up a lot of jump balls. You might not be. You might be throwing a lot of drags. You might be throwing a lot of slants, whatever that might be. You kind of have to tweak it based on what you're doing with your offense or what you plan to do with your offense. But like I said, those minimum 80s numbers are going to be really efficient, in my opinion. There are a handful of other statistics that are absolutely worthwhile mentioning for receivers. Your agility and change of direction are going to impact how well you're able to get out of your breaks, how well you're able to make adjustments to the football as a receiver. And so a lot of times people will get receivers that have good straight line speed, good acceleration, maybe they have good catching, maybe they have good route running and release like this guy, but then the receiver struggles to adjust to the football and make a catch, and a DB makes a better adjustment to the ball and they pick it off. Well, oftentimes you'll get receivers that look just like this one here that only have 87 agility and 85 change of direction. Keep in mind that the minimum that we would like at the receiver position is 90 and 90. So we're really sacrificing here on our agility and change of direction, and that's going to handicap us in certain areas like trying to switch on to the receiver and adjust to the football, whereas we have players that are maybe a bit better at doing that, and another player here that is quite a bit better at adjusting and getting to the football with 92 and 92, and he's just as fast. So keep in mind what your players are capable of there, because it can make a big impact on what they're able to do whenever you're actually trying to use them, or whenever you're trying to make an adjustment or they're trying to make an adjustment to the football. Next is going to be awareness. You want your awareness to be mid 70s and above, so 75 and above, I would say. There are often times where you will see a receiver not get their head around to look for the football. A football might bounce off of them. Some weird things can happen if their awareness isn't isn't high enough. And that's simply because they're not getting their head around quick enough. They're not getting out of their break quick enough. It does impact the algorithm as far as their ability to gain separation, their ability to get their head around and catch a football, their consistency, and those types of things. So don't understate the importance of awareness. It can overinflate a player's ratings just like any other position. Like, you don't necessarily need 95 awareness. It's not going to make that big of a difference. 77 awareness is just fine. 83 awareness is pretty solid. Above that, it's potentially just inflating ratings. So keep in mind how that kind of plays out. You have to keep in mind that it is an animation-driven game. So if you want a receiver that is capable of jumping up for the football, you need a minimum jumping. So having receivers that have 82 or 83 jumping is going to be really bad for their capability to make certain animations happen or trigger for them. And that can handicap your capability of getting certain types of catches and whatnot. It goes up in increments. The higher you get, the better you get. So 90 jumping is going to be quite a bit better than 85, 95, even better than that. And it typically goes up as far as it used to work in Madden, and I believe it still works in college football because these games share a lot of things. It goes up in increments of 5. 5 additional jumping is going to make an impact. So you're going to want to hit that 90 mark or that 95 mark to really see a difference. And finally, for college football 25, you're going to want receivers that are capable of making plays. Tackling is not a specialty in college football. You're going to see a lot more breakaway touchdowns, one-play touchdowns, broken tackles, and those types of things. So you want players that are capable of giving you more of those. In order to get more of those and impact the algorithm positively for yourself, you're looking at ball carrier vision and break tackle as the main 2 ratings. Carrying can be important because you obviously don't want to fumble the football. So certainly if you have somebody that has 50s or like 60 carrying, be aware that you don't want to take a whole lot of hits. If you have somebody that has like 83 ball carrier vision, 85 break tackle, that's pretty dang good. You can try to get away with breaking more tackles, getting away from defenders and those types of things. It's very rare that you're going to get a receiver that has good trucking or stiff arm in very many categories. So that can come into play, especially if they're an athlete type of a player transferring from, say, running back or something like that. But it's not too often that you're going to see those, but they can have a positive impact. And then spin move and juke move are going to help you, again, break tackles and fake out defenders. And those ones are pretty straightforward. If you want to do more spin moves, which I like in this game personally, I love the fact that they made spin moves actually effective, even if you don't have the traits. They're really, really good in this game, and they're a good way to get away from defenders. Juke moves can also be really effective. And so all of that to say that it really matters what you're trying to do with your receiving core. Some people like playmakers, some people like deep threats, some people like route runners that are just going to get separation, and all of those are viable options. In my opinion, the best way to hit whatever you're trying to do is just get players that can get open the fastest, and that comes down primarily to their speed, acceleration, as well as their route running and release. If you get those things down, you're going to get a receiver that is getting open more often than they're not, and they're going to be providing you with opportunities to generate big plays. Let me know down in the comment section below what type of receivers you prefer. I have certain friends that prefer route runners. They feel like they develop the best within this game. I personally just focus on generally athlete receivers because I feel like they come in with the best athleticism ratings, whether they're a physical receiver, a route runner, a deep threat, whatever it might be. I generally just prefer athlete receivers because I oftentimes get those 97, 98, 99 speed players. I even got a 100 speed receiver in this game, which is just absolutely crazy. I love it. I love that you're able to do that. I love that athleticism does matter that much in this game. I love how it reflects actual college football, and it just feels right to me. So let me know your thoughts about that down in the comment section below. Do you like the way that receivers operate within this game? What do you do with your receivers as well? And with that being said, as always, I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you guys have a good one.